I do weight bearing in quadruped. I will often do donkey kicks and fire hydrants in this position. I have noticed my unaffected hip seems to collapse a bit, falls to the side. Would this be a hip or a core issue? My stroke was just a few days postpartum, so my core is so weak. Therapist at an inpatient didn't work on it for fear of my C-section incision. I'm still dealing with a weak core almost 10 years later because my bone flap from surgery was there too. I don't know what to do. Now, this is a very nuanced topic. And yeah, a lot of that probably are confounding factors as to maybe why you can't do quadruped. But I would say in this situation, I know that if you follow postpartum or pelvic floor therapists on the interwebs or on the social medias, you might hear a lot about a weak core and things like that. And I do think for someone who is able-bodied that, there might be some asymmetries after a C-section because of that. I forget what it's called, but it's when it doesn't fully, the abdominal muscles don't fully come back together, and I'm drawing a blank right now. And yeah, that can be a problem if someone is maybe having low back pain and they're a runner and they're running 50 miles a week and they're putting all this trauma on their body and they have some asymmetries with their abdominal muscles. But my instinct tells me that if you're someone that's just trying to do normal activities, so for example, you've just had a stroke and you're trying to do normal activities, I'm not sure I would overly be focused on some of the functional impairments that might be associated with the C-section. Now, the reason I say that is because our bodies are extremely resilient and they will find other ways to restore stability. So with like a runner or someone who's running 50 or 100 miles a week, yeah, like if your body's now pulling in other structures to support that area and you're putting all this additional above normal stress on your body, then that might be beneficial to focus on the core to address that issue. But to do normal activities, yeah, maybe you might experience a little bit of pain, but I don't think it would result in a huge functional impairment. So long story short, and I do think it's important I go into that because I get a lot of people now that leave me questions. Well, what about this and what about that? Because I go into so much depth sometimes in these videos, and that's really because I want you guys to be able to come up with your own exercises. So if you understand the rationale, but sometimes we think too much about the rationale. And really when it comes to stroke rehab, whatever you can't do, just keep doing it until it looks normal. I mean, as simple as that sounds, I really wish I could say I was smarter than I am, but that's really what it boils down to. There's no secret to this. That's why these videos are free, is there's no real secret to stroke rehabilitation. It's just being able to identify what's not normal and finding creative ways to restore that norm or normalize that movement pattern. So, and this is for everyone. I wouldn't become hyper-focused on like an old injury or a herniated disc or a fused ankle or an old ankle sprain as contributing to the reason why you can't move. I would just say you probably can't move because a part of your brain is damaged and you've lost the ability or the motor control or the ability to control specific muscles to restore a normal movement that someone your age could do or that you would have been able to do had you not had a stroke, and then work on that movement and not maybe get so much into the weeds as to what's causing it. So I hope that made sense. So back to this question, what should you focus on? Well, if you are trying to do quadruped and you're trying to do donkey kicks with your affected leg, so you didn't put that, but I'm going to assume it's your affected leg. If you're trying to do donkey kicks with your affected leg and your unaffected leg is dropping, what you want to focus on is when you're in quadruped, that is probably because your unaffected side or your affected side potentially is dropping, is forcing that unaffected hip to go out to the side. I would just try and not let that hip go out to the side. I mean, you'll see it if you put a mirror in front of you, and obviously you have because you've identified it, but try not to do that and maybe not focus so much on what's causing that. The other activity that I really like if someone can't do a quadruped donkey kick or fire hydrant is bridging. We move on past bridging so quickly a lot of times, and it really is a better position, I find, for most people after a stroke. It's not that it's easier, it's just that when you're flipped over, the hips, it's just easier to keep the hips level. So I would probably go back to bridging, maybe like a bridge with a march might be a good activity to try and do if you can't do that and make that movement look normal, quote unquote normal. So maybe try a bridge with a little bit of a march. If you liked that video and you want to learn more exercises on how to improve your walking, definitely check out this video over here or that video over there. If you want even more help, check out our gold membership program where you will get access to over 300 exercises that are not here on YouTube, as well as access to our monthly lives where you can get your questions answered.